I believe that when you get something like narcissistic abuse when you're growing up, that carries out into your relationships and your friendships, because more than likely you get friendships that are similar to your siblings, and it kind of goes from there until you start to heal those qualities. And I feel like in relationships, you get something like your parents, um, whether it's a boy or whether it's a girl, and you're triggered a lot. You first really like that person because you learn how familiar it is, and it just seems right. And you get these crazy triggers. And I think these triggers are basically just so these triggers that you get, they get you so upset and you have no idea why or who's over it. And you don't know that they're called triggers unless you study triggers. So it kind of knocks you for a loop, and you're questioning, like, what is going on with me? What is the deal with all of this that I'm experiencing right now? And after you experience that, you still have this idea that your partner did something to you, but really you're triggered because of a commodity that's there. I feel like when you get triggered, you know it because when you get triggered, you know it because your whole demeanor or your mood or all of that has changed completely, and you're not sure why. You're not sure what's happened for you to feel the way you do, but you do, and you feel it strongly, intensely, in your body. So the first person you're going to look at is the person you're with, and you're just wondering, like, you just have all these questions about them, to get some type of clarity going with this situation, because it's tricky. It's really tricky, because you're going off of feelings that you felt before. And so unless you're familiar with what's going on, you're not sure how to identify it. And that's okay. So I would say I've been triggered a lot because I grew up with what some people consider to be overt narcissistic father and a covert narcissistic mother. I ended up with friendships and relationships with very, very similar characteristics as my parents. And going back on it, I really didn't know how to deal with it at the time because it's not something that was talked about. Therapy was not introduced to us. We didn't have a right to have a voice of our own or ask questions or have conversations. It would be considered to be smart, and so I didn't learn a lot of this stuff until I got older. And initially it's crazy because I thought it was my dad. I didn't think it was my mom. I just remember when I called my friend and I told her what was going on with me with the cancer status. I remember her saying something like, if she was me, she probably would be cursing out all the gods, because she would be questioning, why is that happening to me after everything that has happened and how good I've been. And for me, I don't feel like you should question why something has happened from that point of view. I feel like you should question it in a sense of, God, what are you trying to pull from me? Or whoever's trying to pull something from you, or whether it's a lesson or a blessing that's going to be a lesson. And so I really didn't. I remember when I was in my class And my teacher said to me, well, what role did your mom play? What did she do while you guys were growing up? And I didn't really understand that question because my mom is someone I always defended. I pretty much defended everybody in the house because that was just my personality, and I got in trouble for doing that, which didn't make sense to me. So I just kind of felt unheard, unseen for so many reasons. But I remember in my class when they asked about my mom, what role did she play? And I'm just like, what do you mean, what role? Because my mom got beat up on, and she, all these things happened. We saw it. It was there. She didn't, what. I remember when I was in my class and my teacher said to me, well, what role did your mom play? What did she do while you guys were growing up? And I didn't really understand that question because my mom is someone I always defended. I pretty much defended everybody in the house because that was just my personality, and I got in trouble for doing that, which didn't make sense to me. So I just kind of felt unheard, unseen for so many reasons. But I remember in my class when they asked about my mom, what role did she play? And I'm just like, what do you mean, what role? Because my mom got beat up on, and she, all these things happened. We saw it. It was there. She didn't, what. So I said all that to say that anybody can be diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, and it's very important before taking certain steps with certain people that they are, because sometimes they may have some traits, or sometimes it may be a different cluster B personality that they need diagnosing. And for me, I've just taken a break from everybody, everything, and just been working on some amazing things. And this, I don't know, everything is just a little bit different for me because of what happened, how it happened, and when it happened. And that's really difficult for me to explain, in a sense. And I feel like the things that led me to breast cancer either have to do with that, or it has to do with something else that we will be talking about. And I feel like I started out handling everything so well that I just felt like that's what I'm supposed to do, because I feel like it is inside your mind and your body and what you put in your body. And so that was a little difficult for me, but I did it. And, I think what's crazy is something that's not necessarily common is people going through that. So for me, I knew that my diagnosis had something to do with that because I went back home, which was like from California to Alabama and Georgia. And I stayed there for a while because it was some things going on within my family, and that's just who I've always been. Going to help wherever I can and wherever is needed. And I just kind of hung around for a while to, figure things out. And it kind of got us wrapped up into past events. I believe it started with my mom's boss who called me from her job, and that's a whole nother story. And so I got my whole family involved so they can discuss what's going on with my mom. This was so they could discuss what's going on with. So discussing what's going on with my mom, things were happening with my dad and my siblings and just all over. And I just kind of got wrapped up into all of that, which I always do. And I don't pay attention to the things that I need or to my life when I'm doing that. And then, like, it's crazy because I was able to hear God so much throughout this process. And I've always been able to hear him, but just not the way that I did. And to me, it's a beautiful story. And I definitely feel like narcissistic abuse that was coming up, like around the time I was writing my first book and just living my life fully. It came out of my body as well. It came out of my body as well. So I think around a time where I was writing information about the books I was reading, I started to read about your chakras, seeing that the heart chakra is related to breast cancer. And I also was reading another book. I'm going to get the name of these books. And in the book, she was just talking about how cancer usually happens to us pretty much in a sense. When I was speaking on a panel during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I remember somebody saying something to that nature as well. Like, it gets triggered in all of us at some period in your life. And, something happens for it to be triggered. And I feel like after reading those books and watching some videos, honestly just really educated myself on everything that's going on and how it plays out in my life. And it was a lot. I'm not gonna lie, it all became a lot. And I'm a person who usually deals with stress pretty well. And I started to kind of lose myself. I kind of lost myself a little bit, and that's when God shut the doors to everyone because he wanted to show me some important things. And with him showing me, I wrote about this. I talked about it with lots of spiritual people. And I'm pretty sure I got the okay to do what I'm doing now. And yeah, so